The Russian army continues to suffer heavy losses in both equipment and manpower. The Ukrainian Special Forces Alpha Division has destroyed 19 tanks and almost 230 occupiers in a week. Russia appears to be suffering severe losses as it wages its new offensive in eastern Ukraine, amid some of the bloodiest fighting in months, according to Ukrainian officials and independent analysts. Russia has thrown thousands of troops and hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles into the offensive, which is focused mainly on the strategic city of Avdiivka and further north near the city of Kupiansk. Russian forces for roughly 2 weeks have been trying to encircle Avdiivka, which is one of the most heavily fortified areas of Ukraine's front line. Ukrainian officials on Sunday claimed Russia had lost over 6,000 soldiers in a week, as well as over 400 armored vehicles and tanks. Britain's defense intelligence claimed Russian casualties have spiked by 90% since it began the offensive. Numerous videos of the Russian attacks around Avdiivka released by Ukrainian units suggest Russia is taking losses on a scale not since last winter. Open-source analysts watching the videos have counted dozens of Russian vehicles destroyed and damaged. Ukraine does not publish its own casualties, but Ukrainian officials have acknowledged they are also large. So far, Russian forces have made little progress, only advancing a few hundred meters near Avdiivka, according to both Ukrainian and Russian accounts. German surface drones Sonobot 5, used by Ukrainian sappers. The Bundeswehr announced the transfer of 5 of them yesterday. The devices are used to survey water bodies and detect ammunition and other dangerous objects at the bottom. Ukraine has already received 15 such drones. 55 more are expected. Now with the Ukrainian infiltrations around Pidstepny, Poima and Krinky, it looks more and more likely that Ukraine will launch an offensive in the Kherson region across the Dnipro River. First of all, I think we should talk about the Russian Dnieper grouping and what it consists of, as it is a lot worse quality than it looks like. When you see a lot of motorized icons, you might think that the Russians have a modern mechanized force defending the area. But in reality, these units are pretty poorly equipped. A lot of territorial units have been formed in the area which are most likely understrength and underprepared for any serious encounters. Similarly to the 205th Motor Rifle Brigade, these territorial units are not the only ones holding the DNEPR front, as there is the battered 40th Army Corps, the Arctic troops, and other random regiments that were sent for restoration. The DNEPR front acts more as a rear area where Russian units refit and restore their strength than an actual front. Ukrainian units have destroyed several training camps in the area, but they still continue to train near the front. And the main problem with a river crossing is that the ground in most places is really swampy with only a few suitable areas for vehicles to cross through. That's why it's possible Ukraine would wait for the ground to freeze before attempting any offensive maneuvers. But waiting for God to decide it's time to freeze the ground is not the most viable option, as it could happen too late or too early or not happen at all. The areas where pontoons can be placed are on the main bridges, as the Ukrainians would have a base to start from. Although pontoons are necessary for an offensive of this scale, the first vehicles would cross using their amphibious capabilities. In this scenario, I have Ukrainian companies with amphibious Rosamax and BTR-43Es, which could cross the Dnieper first. If amphibious vehicles do cross, they would want to rush to the main urban centers, as Russian armored assets won't have as big of an advantage in there. Near Kakhovka, the situation is likely to play similarly with Oleski, with only a couple of areas where pontoons can be placed. The difference here is that there is an island where Ukrainians can place R3Ps, rearm, refuel, and resupply point. In our scenario, as soon as vehicles started crossing the flank on Oleski was overwhelmed, and Ukrainian units rushed over towards Radensk. Russian reserves slowly got online and started moving on the highway south of Oleski, so units inside the town wouldn't get encircled. While on Kakhovka, the Ukrainians managed to overwhelm initial defenses, but Russian reserves were closer, so the advance was slower. What was tried here was an entrapment of Russian units north of the Oleski Sands. If achieved, a big amount of Russians would be taken out. During the next couple days, the Ukrainians would be able to reinforce their bridgehead with 2 battalions or more, secure Radensk, cause a large amount of casualties using intense artillery and air support, and destroy the enemy artillery capabilities that were harassing their MSRs. Russian reinforcements would most likely arrive too late to change the outcome of such an offensive. The deciding factor would Ukraine's ability to eliminate Russian air power, at least temporarily. What I see as a problem would be that if Ukrainian forces can't do a Balaklaya-Izium-style move here, which is a very possible case, then Russian forces could easily interdict supplies coming through pontoon crossings. The Ukrainians would have to replace or field repair pontoons. Constantly having 10s of pontoons at a time would be ideal. MREs and small ammunition supplies can be delivered through Arch-Ibs Hellas, and trucks can deliver heavier supplies too. A Siberian battalion consisting entirely of Russian citizens has been formed in the armed forces of Ukraine. The recruits who came from Russia represent various ethnic groups, such as Tatars, Yakuts, Buryats, Kalmyks, Tuvans, and others. I am very ashamed of the crimes committed by Russia and Russians, including my people, one of the soldiers said. They believe that only blood can wash away Russian crimes against the Ukrainian people.
Мне очень стыдно, какие преступления творит Россия, какие преступления творит сами россияне, и в том числе мой народ. Каждый россиянин, каждый причастен к этому.
Это никакие не герои, не солдаты, это просто убийцы, звери, которые пришли убивать и насиловать за деньги, за Путина.
Нет такого понимания. Я считаю, что вообще должно быть хороший человек, который критически мыслит, разделяет добро и зло, понимает четко причинно-следственную связь и так, чтобы тебе не стыдно было за это потом отвечать.
Я сразу сказал, зачем нам этот Крым, если у нас есть свои полуостров, которые нужно развивать.
По факту территория никогда не принадлежала России. Если бы хотели бы спасти людей, да, то они бы просто их бы вывезли на территорию России, дали бы им квартиры и все.
Я решил приехать сюда и помочь, просто для того, чтобы хотя бы взглянуть на себя в зеркало и сказать, что я что-то сделал. Не поддержал эту преступную войну, а еще и помог.
Остановить вот этот хаос, который Кремль создал во всем мире.
Я не был готов, но иначе могло бы быть хуже. Мог бы сесть в тюрьму, допустим, да, и я бы не мог заниматься той деятельностью, которой занимаюсь сейчас.
Все равно мы для Украины враги, как бы ни крути, потому что мы страны-агрессор. И чтобы это доказать, тут надо через кровь, наверное, только доказывать, что мы за вас.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.